Hello, welcome back to Orphean Night. Sorry, Baines has just put in our private chat as we were going live there. Connor looks a bit stressed. If you just watched the women's channel show, you'll have seen, obviously, I've done that one as well, plus another pre-record today. So this is my third show I've had to plan for today. So that is why I'm looking maybe a little bit stressed. But I've got four fantastic people to talk through the Arsenal preview. We're going to talk a little bit about Palace to start with, so I don't have to. So there we go. That's how we're going to throw it there. Firstly, how is everyone doing? Jamie as well. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since we've seen you on, so I hope you're doing well as well.
Cheers. Thanks for having me back.
I'm gonna have to stop looking at the chat before I go to ask the next question. I'm just going to throw the question at you from the start. Then, right, we'll start with Palace before we look at Arsenal. I just want to do a brief kind of roundup of the Palace game, and then we'll start looking ahead to Arsenal. Marcus, start with you. What went wrong in the Palace game from your point of view? There's so many things you could talk about, but if we can all keep it brief to kind of 2 minutes or so, what do you think went wrong for you in the Palace game?
I mean, for me, the simplified answer was the attack just wasn't good enough. I think the midfield was okay, especially in the first half. I thought actually Eriksen played really well. So our defense, no problems. Our midfield, no problems. We controlled the game. We bossed the tempo. Palace didn't look that great until the very end, but there was a clear collapse in mentality. So for me, it was the attack just not being good throughout the 90 minutes. Rashford was quiet. Anthony was quiet. Weghorst, I thought, was really quiet. And then on top of that, it was compounded by Casemiro's yellow card. There was a clear drop in performance, right? Like there was a mental drop off in the last 8 minutes that I noticed. So those are the two things that I would say were the biggest reasons why we fell off against Palace.
Basically, I was going to say that would be quite something. Basically, for yourself, I mean, Barry's mentioning there we gave away an unnecessary free kick, simple as that kind of thing. Is that all that went wrong? Because we didn't create anything either in that set. I think we only had one shot on target, and that was Garnacho towards the end.
Yeah, look, I mean, the first half was controlled. I mean, let's be honest here. Palace is a tough place to go, and I'm not trying to make excuses. It is a tough place. We haven't really had decent results there. In the past, but it was in our hands. The Casemiro booking, yes, at the time he had to do it, or he didn't have to do it, and everyone got deflated. But then I think it was salt in the wounds when we equalised to an amazing free kick. Yeah, look, it's a bit of a sucker punch, but I'm always the one that looks at the positives. I mean, last season I struggled, but this season I would say that if you were to say to us that we've got City on Saturday, Palace on Tuesday, and we'll have 4 points, I'll bite your hand off. So that's really how you have to look at it. Obviously, we'll talk about the Arsenal game. But yeah, just in a nutshell, Palace, they went for it in the last 15 minutes. They got their goal. I did think that the second half we didn't perform as well. We could have shut the game off. I think a second goal for us would have just easily shut that game off. It didn't look dangerous from the Palace point of view, but 1-0 is always a dodgy score. So I suppose it's a lesson learned. We've won a lot of games 1-0 away from home. So yeah, it's just one of those things. We were eventually going to draw or lose. I'd much rather it be to someone like Palace, and we drew that game. Hopefully, then I'm sure we'll talk about Arsenal, but I'm sure we'll go over the weekend and hopefully we can win. And also, Football Crazy said that is Connor stressed because I made tea incorrectly. I made it properly this time. I didn't put the milk in first. I was stressed last week because I was in a hurry, but no, I had time to make a proper brew this time. So thank you.
There we go. None of that nonsense here.
I got roasted. Nonsense, yeah.
I've just been roasted on the other channel, on the women's channel, from other my eating habits. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Stu, you jumped in the comments on the watch long we did on Wednesday, and you just said it's football. It's one of those things that happens. What for you? What do you think went wrong on Wednesday night? One thing that's wrong right from the off, though, you are on mute, so we can't hear a word you're saying.
What I was going to say was, I don't think anything went wrong in particular. Football's football. You can't legislate for anything that happens on a football pitch. The ball drops out the sky. You let it bounce. It bounces awkwardly. It goes over your head. It's just one of those things. And, people are talking about, I know the lads have got different opinions on Casemiro's yellow card. We've got a squad for a reason. You got to use the squad. The thing is, Casemiro could have been injured in the first 2 minutes of that game, and you guys kind of understand football. A lot of the guys on Twitter, you shouldn't have fucking played, blah blah blah. Give it a rest, will you? What happens?
It's more important he plays and we win the game. I mean, that's
what happens if Casemiro steps up and somebody crunches him and he's out for 6 months? You know, this happens in football. You've just got to deal with it. And I was on a show a few days ago with Jamie and Keane, and I said it would be 1-0. I thought we'd win 1-0. I didn't think we'd win by any other scoreline. And unfortunately, we gave away a free kick. And I can't remember who was chasing back, whether it was Luke Shaw or whoever was chasing back. He was caught wrong side of the lad. And the lad's just put a worldie away. Hold your hands up. It's football. This time last year, would we have been pissed off if we got a point at Crystal Palace? Not really. Not really. People would have taken it for what it is. People would have taken it for what it is. When you're out there, when you're playing the game, anything can happen. People say, maybe we did switch off, maybe we didn't switch off. I think the lads' analysis is pretty great. Is pretty spot on. I didn't think we had a great game in total. As a collective, I didn't think we were sharp. I didn't think we were dangerous. But look, for Palace. If you look at City, Tottenham last night, Tottenham capitulated. You could say, was City better? Well, I think City were better. City just pulled their fingers out. Tottenham didn't specifically capitulate. They were just better. Palace sorted themselves out. And in any game of football, at any given time, you're going to have a period of play where you're on the back foot. And it's up to that team to make the most of it. And it's exactly the same for us. If we've got players on the front, if we've got teams on the back foot and we don't make the best of it, then you're always liable to concede. As good as a game De Gea was having, no one was stopping that free kick. Having said that, fellas, he won't do that again tomorrow. He couldn't do it again the day after tomorrow.
9 times out of 10, that's going over the bar, hitting the wall.
It's just one of them. So
it's just one of those things.
Yeah, credit to the kid. And we move on to Sunday. That's how I look at it. Is Casemiro a loss for us, by the way? Of course he is. Let's be plain about that. But you have to deal with it. When you're in that dressing room, you're looking around, and if you are a player, whoever it may be, and you look at it, you're thinking, oh, fuck, Casemiro can't play Sunday. Go and do something else, lad. Go and do something else. I'd be talking to Fred or McTominay during the week now and saying, look, mate, you've got to step up Sunday. This is what we need from you Sunday. Watch what Casemiro does and emulate him to the best of your ability, and it'll get us to the game. You've got to talk to these players. You can't just think to yourself, Casemiro's not playing, the game's over. It doesn't work that way in football. Football's so much more intricate than that. Our Arsenal fans would say at this point, right now, in this point in time, if Odegaard went, we'd be in a world of trouble, because Odegaard is as important to Arsenal as Casemiro is to us. But
Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey is just as important,
You put in Emile Smith-Rowe, who is a good player, and we've got players out there that can do it. There's nothing to stop him. Look, and I'm not saying.
Can we come back? Sorry, can we come back to Casemiro? Because I do want to cover that. Little segment at the moment. I just want to stick with the Palace game for the time being. I know that was a part of it. People were more upset, I think, about the fact that Casemiro got booked than the fact we dropped 2 points. I think actually
they did. They did. They can't do that.
So I will come back to Casemiro in a second when we look at the Arsenal game. But I just want to get, Jamie, your thoughts on the Palace game, just to round off that section in terms of what you think went wrong. Because, like I said, I know there was, as Stu's rightly said there, and Bainesy and Marcus also said, it happens. It's a great free kick. It's just one of those. But do you feel like we should have maybe gone for a second? Like, the attack just seemed to be non-existent in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting one, seeing us sort of take the foot off the gas and not really go for the jugular. In the second half, Rashford didn't necessarily look completely on it. I don't know whether that's a bit of a hangover from the knock that he supposedly picked up against City. Obviously we all expected him to go off at half time in that game. He didn't. I don't know whether, and as we know with this man, he will play through an injury. He did it for 18 months with the problems with his back. So I don't know whether or not he's feeling the effects of that. Whether or not he didn't want to push himself too hard because he's saving himself for Arsenal, I don't know. But yeah, it was an interesting one to see us relax a little bit. And in the end, our relaxation cost us in the way that we didn't push for a second. I agree with what the lads have said. Michael Olise is a wicked baller, by the way. Like, don't get it twisted. Like that kid is phenomenal. And that free kick is, like we've said, you're not stopping that. And It's one of those, like Stu hit the nail on the head. It's just what happens in football. You could be the best team in the world on the best run of form ever, and you can drop 2 points because of a moment in a football game, because that's what happens. It's a game of fine margins and fine moments. And we'd won 9 on the bounce, and it's now 10 games unbeaten. Do you know what I mean? Like, the record doesn't really change that much, and I think it's a sign of how well Ten Hag's doing that everyone is absolutely fuming, because I think we're punching above our weight at the minute. I think we are much further ahead than where we thought we'd be 6 months into the Ten Hag's era. Granted, it helps that Liverpool and Chelsea have dropped off, but the fact that we're sat comfortably in the top 4 at a point where everyone was getting James Dixon there in the comments saying about how if that game ends earlier and we're 6 points off top playing Arsenal. Everyone's sitting there thinking, can we do it? But now it's the end of the world because we dropped 2 points away. A decent Palace side, do you know what I mean? I know they've had a bit of a dip in form at the minute, but Patrick Vieira's got them playing some good football. They're a well-knit squad. They all do their roles. And they've been a more functional squad over the last 12 to 18 months than we have. So not that I'm saying that we shouldn't be beating Palace. I'm not at all saying that. But they're a decent side, and they're tricky. They're hard to play against. And I just think it's one of those. It's fine margins that it's cost us. Yes, we can look at it and think, should we have gone and really, really pushed for a second? Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. We should have scored 7 goals in that game. Do you know what I mean? It's easy to say that. And the Casemiro booking, and again, I know you want to touch on Casemiro in a second, but just in terms of the Palace game, people saying that he should have been rested, he should have whatever. Anything could happen. We could have not played Casemiro, lost against Palace because he didn't start, and he's arguably our best player. And then we could have gone and lost at Arsenal anyway by playing Casemiro. Do you know what I mean? Ten Hag's got to put out the 11 that he thinks is going to do the job on the day. I think he did that. I think Weghorst's introduction was interesting. I don't think anyone was expecting him to necessarily light the world up. He did all right, I think, and I think there's signs of what he can provide. I think it's a shame that Martial again is back out of the team. He's struggling with his fitness once more, and I think that this is probably his swan song. I think he might be looking for a club in the summer. But yeah, the be-all and end-all is we're still a good side. We're a tight-knit unit. Again, Ten Hag's got playing some good football. We've picked up maximum points and results in 9 of the last 10, and we haven't been beaten in 10 games. You know what I mean? We've just beaten one of our biggest rivals, and all of a sudden the mood across the fan base is a bit dejected because of a wicked free kick from Elise. I think it's fine.
On that quickly, Jamie, it's just, why I think the fan base was so geared up to taking on Arsenal, and we needed Casemiro. Well, some fans feel like we needed Casemiro to do that, to field our strongest 11. And now we go into that game before Palace with belief that we could go to Arsenal, we could turn them over. But now, obviously, since Casemiro's not there, the mood has changed. Yeah, and then obviously the result happened. It's just one of those that it is just football at the end of the day, and we got to deal with it.
I agree. I do agree that obviously it is disheartening that people obviously want us to go with our strongest 11. With our, Casemiro has been, he's played 15 games for us. We've won 11 of them, and we've kept 8 clean sheets, I think, in those games. I think was the stats I saw this afternoon. We beat them 3-1 earlier in the season without Casemiro. I think he did come on obviously at one point during the game. I can't remember the stats. Who played?
Was it McTominay?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we played McTominay, Eriksen, and Bruno was the starting midfield 3.
Yeah.
But I agree with what Stu said. The reason we have a squad is because Ten Hag needs players that can do a job. And I don't think it is the end of the world. I think, yes, it makes it more difficult for us. Arsenal would probably like to have Gabriel Jesus available for the game, but they don't. These things happen in football, and it's one of those. If Arsenal beat us on Sunday, at the end of the day, they've been the best team in the Premier League so far. And it pains me. It pains me to say that, but credit to. And I know Connor, you said you want to touch on it, but credit to Arteta, who's got them playing good football. Casemiro would be a massive help to us, but
credit to the board.
Have to deal with these things.
You have to give credit to the Arsenal board because they stuck with their guns when half the fan base wanted Arteta out when they lost Was it 5 games in a row a couple of seasons ago? They were sitting 19th in the league. They lost 5 in a row or 4 in a row or whatever. The board said, no, there is a plan here, and they stuck with their guns. And look, they're getting rewarded for it. And to be honest, if they beat us on Sunday, they'll go on to win the title. There's absolutely no chance they'll lose it from there. I think what will they be 9 points clear or 8 points clear, whatever it is. But yeah,
I agree with them. I think, Jamie, you hit the nail on the head. I think we are punching a little bit of our weight here with this current score. Like you said, it's hard to forget. People seem to forget Ten Hag is only 6 months into this job.
Yeah,
not
and
had
Arsenal 4 years into it.
Exactly, and he's not had. Obviously, the January window has been a little bit iffy. Potential takeover it might be the reason for that. Obviously, we don't know. We're speculating here, but he's only 6 months in. As you said, Arteta's further down the line. Moving on to Arsenal, Marcus, I'll throw it back around to yourself. We may as well, obviously, everyone's spoken about Casemiro, so I may as well just go straight into that. Obviously, the Casemiro thing is, I guess the question I want to spin off the back of that is, what would you do for the midfield? Because as Jamie has said, and as we were chatting backstage, that we have beaten Arsenal this season. This same Arsenal team that everyone is raving about, with McTominay, with Eriksen, and with Bruno. We've got those 3 players available. Is that the kind of midfield that you would want to see on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't know if you can go with that midfield again, because the key point that a lot of Manchester United fans are missing, and maybe people just flat out disagree, but Arsenal played well at Old Trafford. They really did. For about 75 minutes, I thought they were the better footballing team. I know that's a controversial thing to say, but if you take off your rose-tinted glasses, they were actually the better team for most of the game at Old Trafford, and people seem to be forgetting that. So for me, I wouldn't start McTominay again, despite the fact that he played well then. It's just a different situation now, and he hasn't really played a consistent level of games. I probably would go with Fred, and the job he did against Kevin De Bruyne in the Manchester Derby, he could probably do that with Odegaard or someone else in the midfield. So you get Fred into that midfield, and then you figure out how it is you navigate the game. Because if Bruno and Eriksen are not pulling their weight, you probably need to make some bold decisions and make some changes. I've seen a few people suggest that maybe Lisandro Martinez should play at CDM. I don't think that's the solution personally. And I don't think Erik ten Hag will do that. I think Lisandro will probably start at centre-back. So for me, I would go Fred in the midfield. I would go Fred, Bruno, and Eriksen and see how that works for the first half. And if it's not working, change it at halftime.
I've got to be honest.
Luke Shaw, CDM. Someone's been messing around with position modifiers on Ultimate Team, hasn't they?
Someone's been playing too much Football Manager. Although I don't even think he would be good there in Football Manager, actually. So that I don't know.
Granted, Shaw's had a shift at centre half. Don't get me wrong here. But to whack him into defensive midfield alongside Fred as well. What we played a double pivot of Shaw. Sorry, I really don't mean to rip this comment apart, Ivan.
He's joking, isn't he? He's joking. It's got to be a joke.
Unless he means short. Well, no, it would be obviously. I would agree with the sentiment that Martinez could play CDM. I think that's a possibility. I don't see it, but I think that's somewhere that we could see. That's the only one I could see from the back line going forwards. But I couldn't see Luke Shaw going into CDM. I've got to be honest.
He'll whack Kobe Mino in there or something. He'll just do something and just go balls to the wall, man.
I mean, James is saying that's usually likely to be Fred, McTominay, Eriksen, Bruno on the right. We did see it towards the end of obviously the game, didn't we? Well, Eriksen had come off by that point, but against Palace, we did see Bruno shifted out to the wings as well. So maybe in preparation. I don't know. That's
actually a brilliant comment. I could see Erik ten Hag doing that because Bruno's played on the right. Generally speaking, when we've played
so many times
a midfield, when we play a midfield three of whether it's Donny playing with Fred or whoever else playing with Fred and Eriksen, generally speaking, Bruno moves out to the right to accommodate that midfield. So that would make sense. Also, he probably wants to nurture the. Yeah, I just want to say the last point is also. With Rashford potentially having an injury, Martial obviously still not being fit, he might think, okay, let me start Garnacho, let me start Bruno on the right, and then bring Rashford off the bench or something like that. So
I can see that. I can see. Look, the danger man's Odegaard. Odegaard is absolutely phenomenal at drifting in spaces. He finds pockets of spaces brilliantly. So whoever we play CDM has got to be. He's got to be mindful of the gap between him and Varane and Martinez. If it is Varane and Martinez, he's got to stop Odegaard drifting in there because that's where Odegaard is massively dangerous. I can see the logic where somebody would say, yeah, let's put Martinez in at the back. CDM, I can see it. He's played there before. There's no issues with him playing there. But I think he'll bring Fred on to do a very, very similar job as to what he did against De Bruyne. And I think he'll go and say, look, I need you to stop Odegaard. And if you can do that, I think you stop a lot of what Arsenal are about. Having said that, though, you've got to make sure Wan-Bissaka's on his game because Martinelli cuts in brilliantly from the left-hand side. So it'd be fascinating stitching up Odegaard. He'll be the one. So I tend to agree with James. I think McTominay will hold. Fred will be the man marker. Bruno on the right, and then Eriksen. The problem for me with Bruno on the right and Eriksen is Eriksen's going to have a really good, solid game as a kind of high 8/10, so to speak. And it depends how disciplined Bruno will be helping out Wan-Bissaka if they attack. Because Zinchenko, we know, will penetrate the left. He'll penetrate deep into our half as much as he can. One of the things we did so well against City was we made sure that it was Walker and it was fullback for City.
Cancelo, I think. I'm not sure.
Cancelo, yeah. We pushed him back. We pushed him out. We kept him out. So we will have to look and consider that side of the game.
Bainesy, for yourself, there's a comment here saying, "I will not play McTominay and Eriksen in midfield. We get over. I'll not play them in midfield because we get overrun." I'll stick with this kind of whole midfield because it kind of leads into the whole thing around Arsenal's danger players and the wider team of who we would select. But who would you kind of go with? Casemiro missing? Obviously, Fred's been mentioned. McTominay, Bruno on the right. Barry's just followed it in, saying, "Do we really want Bruno on the right?" So by that logic, if we don't want Bruno on the right, what kind of? It's a tough one. I don't really know the answer myself while I'm asking you, but what kind of system would you be trying to thinking about to play in midfield with no Casemiro in there?
I honestly would go Fred, McTominay, and Eriksen, and Bruno on the right. It's the only logical. It's really the only logical thing. Bruno's played on the right numerous times. Even when we change it up halfway through a game, Bruno's on the right. He won't take Bruno off. He won't. McTominay, yes, he played at Old Trafford against Arsenal, put in a huge shift, won the game 3-1, fair enough. But also, Arsenal were absolutely all over us that game. Yes, we had control in that game. They had more possession, whatever it is. It was a controlled defensive performance by United. But do we really want a repeat of that at the Emirates, where they're firing? So maybe we play Fred and McTominay, have that tenacity, have the legs in midfield with Eriksen and then Bruno on the right. That's really the only way I can do it. I don't think you can play Fred or McTominay with Eriksen and Bruno. That will get overrun. I can agree with the comment in some sense, but I think Fred and McTominay need to come in. It worked for so many games for us, so why not try that, especially with Erik ten Hag at the helm. But Fred, McTominay, Eriksen with Bruno on the right.
It's interesting, isn't it? We're back to this Fred and McTominay.
I mean, but we have to, don't we? There's not, of course, everyone wants Casemiro. He's not going to play, so it would have to be Fred and McTominay. I can't see McTominay doing it by himself. He's not in good form, and he was brilliant. That run up of games where we had Liverpool, Liverpool, Arsenal. We had a run of games where McTominay was absolutely fantastic. I think then we played City, lost 6-3, and that's when Casemiro came in. Yeah. So, but right now it's different because Casemiro had these run of games and McTominay hasn't. So he's not in firing form at the moment. Now, obviously, of course, you can give him a couple of passion tablets and he'll be fine, But it's going to be a ball game for McTominay, I think. But you have to go. I think personally, you have to go with Fred and McTominay.
Just throwing it over to yourself, Jamie. Then this is an open question, really, to anyone. Cap was talking about when Arsenal play with the ball, they play with 3-5-2. I'm actually going to throw that back on our side of things. Could we see a back five or a back three if the midfield options potentially are limited in terms of a defensive midfield option? Could we play Shaw, Martinez, Varane, Malacia obviously at full back with Wan-Bissaka on the other side? Could that be an option if our midfield is a little bit limited?
So I'm glad you came to me with this one. I think it's a really interesting one. So I personally don't think we'll see any sort of drastic change from Ten Hag's preferred plan. His philosophy and the way he set up Ajax has translated quite well to us now. We obviously struggled early on, and you saw the Ten Hag in the first few games as United manager. We were sort of playing more of a 4-2-3-1, and we now have reverted to his preferred sort of 4-3-3. you see the little tweaks he's made even more so as well, that the fullbacks invert a little bit more, and the blueprints are there a little bit more of what he wanted us to be at the start of the season, and it's just taken 6 months. So I don't think we're going to see him throw caution to the wind and whack us into a back five. We might play similar to that, sort of out of possession and in possession. We might see the tactical shifts in the formation. So you might see, if we do play McTominay in the 6, he might drop and screen and fill in with Lissandro and with Varane. But I personally think we'll see a very similar setup to how we played against City. Arteta spent X amount of years under Guardiola at City. I'm not saying he's as good a coach as Guardiola. He's having a very good season. But the way his philosophy is clearly influenced by Guardiola. So their 11s that they play, pretty much man for man, their players have similar instructions to the City side. So I think you'll see that we'll play Weghorst up. If we play Weghorst up top, we'll see a repeat of what Martial did in the first half, where he wasn't pressing the ball, he wasn't pressing Ederson out of possession, he wasn't pressing the centre halves or anyone that was stepping up to receive the ball. Sure, because we'll try and kill them by not allowing the option to play out to the fullbacks or to the wingers. And I agree with Stu. I think Fred appears for me in this game. He'll do the exact same thing that he did on Odegaard that he did on De Bruyne, and we saw that works really well. And I do think that where we try to dominate the midfield is you'll see Wan-Bissaka and Shaw out of possession step into the midfield and try and stop that midfield 3. I say midfield 3. It will be more of a midfield 2 because obviously Partey screens a lot. And when I say that man for man, the Arsenal and the City side have similar instructions, I think Partey is one of the big differences, whereas Rodri is a phenomenal ball progressor. And as good as he is defensively, I think his primary talent in that City side is receiving the ball and distributing the ball and breaking the lines. Partey, I think, is still a bit more just of a defensive midfielder. He's a good passer, don't get me wrong. I'm not any Arsenal fan that sees this or anything like that. I'm not slating Thomas Partey. I mean, I'd slate him for other things, but not for his ability in the 6. So I don't think we'll see a massive change in our formation. I do worry as well as the comments, if we see a return of Fred, McTominay and Bruno as a midfield 3. I really worry about the legs in that midfield. We would get overrun. I think like Xhaka's a different midfielder this season. Do you know what I mean? Like the way he plays now as that sort of 8-6 hybrid that he does. Again, his ball retention's better. He's not the same Xhaka that you can sort of have a couple of nibbles at and try and get him sent off or anything like that. He seems a lot more composed, a lot calmer. And the ball goes to Odegaard, and Odegaard is Arsenal's De Bruyne. I'm not saying he's on the same level, but Odegaard's the key to this game. If we can take him out and if we can sit Fred on him, then I think we've got a chance. Because they'll get less service in behind to Martinelli and Saka. Saka's another, obviously, don't get me wrong, Saka's a danger man, but the form that Luke Shaw's in, I think that Luke Shaw will fancy himself. Wan-Bissaka's having a urgence under Ten Hag at the minute. Martinelli hasn't been great. He wasn't great against Spurs. Do you know what I mean? He was the least threatening of that front 4 of Nketiah, Saka, Odegaard and himself. So I think the blueprints are there for us to do it. We did it against City. Yes, Casemiro is going to be a bit of a loss out of that, and having Casemiro screening. And as well, Casemiro has that almost hidden talent of his ball progression is fantastic. But yeah, if we play McTominay in the 6, we've got to hope that it's his, he has 1 or 2 games a season where he turns into Roy Keane. And the only thing is, and obviously Connor, Stu, obviously we've done a lot of shows over the years where we had the problems with McFred in the pivot. I don't think we'll see a McFred pivot. I don't think it'll be that. I think Fred will be the 8 who sits on Odegaard. McTominay potential screening. If not, you never know. We might go balls to the wall, and it might be a Fred, Eriksen, Bruno 3, and we just try and score more than they do. It's one of those. I trust Ten Hag more than I trust my own footballing opinions, obviously. So it's going to be an interesting one because Arteta's obviously sat there. The guy's never experienced as a head coach, has never experienced a title running before. This Arsenal side has never experienced a title running before. So at the minute, they're just enjoying the football. They're playing how they want to play, and they're getting the results. And that's the sign of a great title running side. Do you know what I mean? Like, just having fun, and you can see that they enjoy what they do on the pitch. The key to us stopping that is to not allow them the freedom of the midfield, to not allow Odegaard to do what he does best, and to stop their runners. And I think we have the facilities to do that. And I think that we've got a good enough squad at the minute.
I wanted to add to that. I wanted to add to that I think with Arsenal, what you've got to do is not fall into their trap, because if you press them high, they've become incredibly good under Mikel Arteta at playing through tight spaces. So if you do get a few passes that bypass your press, you need to be really, really quick to drop deep and cover the space in behind. And with Jesus not in the team, I thought there was going to be a huge drop off. But Nketiah, fair play to the lad, because he's actually been holding his own. He's not as good as Gabriel, but he's been holding his own up front. So you've got Martinelli, you've got Saka, you've got Nketiah, then you've got Odegaard and Xhaka. And even if you keep those two quiet, Benjamin White and Zinchenko have done an exceptional job. They essentially play as midfielders when Arsenal are attacking, because they always tuck in and occupy the central areas and just are a menace to deal with. They always give that extra passing option. They know where they need to be positioned. Defensively in transition, they're both very quick to get back. So, yeah, man, Arsenal are a tough one. I think for me, I'm not worried about our attack. I think we'll get chances. It's the defense that I'm worried about. How quickly can we win back the ball and disrupt them?
Yeah, and that's that Guardiola blueprint. Do you know what I mean? Like, I agree with Marcus. That's spot on. Like the way that Ben White and Zinchenko invert, and before you know it, you're up against 5-6 men in the midfield. But I do think that Ten Hag will expect that. I think we'll see that. And I know obviously people have criticised David De Gea a couple of times recently for his distribution again, and that's back in the limelight. But if you remember back to the Liverpool game earlier on in the season, obviously when we beat them 2-1, and his sort of pressing trap resetting was really good. You know, being able to receive the ball, send it out long, and just reset that Liverpool formation, the Liverpool press. I think we might see a little bit more about that against Arsenal, because like Marcus was saying, they'll be looking to get the ball in out wide, in behind to the runners. Even if they skip the sort of the midfield third and they go straight for those killer balls that Ben White does play. Like, Ben White's been wicked this year, don't get me wrong. Like, we all bantered Arsenal for signing him for 50 million, but at right back, that man's been a revelation. But if De Gea can get involved,
they did buy him as a centre back though.
Well, yeah, of course. But the sign of a good coach is taking a player and going, actually, I think he'd be good here, and he's done well. But I think we'll see a few more balls going long, and this is where like there is a difference between like 4-4-2 Brexit long ball and intelligent long ball, which sounds daft, I know, but sending a ball long when you're being counter-pressed and you're in possession and resetting those traps that are being set around is smart. And I genuinely think, and if this comes off, man, I will think I'm a wizard, right? And I'm going to go for my UEFA coaching licenses. I do think we'll see the ball go back to De Gea. De Gea will send the ball out long to either of their fullbacks to put pressure on them from the runners that we have in behind them, so that it resets their shape and it allows us to, again, counter-press, which is exactly what we did against Liverpool earlier on in the season. We didn't fall into their traps. So we'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting one. It could very much as easily be a 3-1 to us as it could be a 5-0 to them.
I would do it slightly differently, just slightly differently, not too much, but I would play a more methodical game against Arsenal than we did against City. Because I think, I know it's going to sound really strange, but they've got one or two players that are technically slightly better than some of City's players. I'm not talking De Bruyne, of course. You know, I'm not talking Bernardo Silva, but so I would play it. So when we've got the ball, I won't be so quick to rush with it, to manoeuvre the ball up. I'm not saying you've got to pass them to death, but I think you've got to protect the ball. You've almost got to play against Arsenal. You've got to play hide and seek with a football. You know, so when they get it, you've got to move it quickly. But you're not penetrating speed-wise. You're actually penetrating a more slowly methodical way of doing it. One of the best exponents, and we all know the way that Casemiro plays, the way that he just inches forward, but he's always centrally positioned so that if we do have the turnover, he's there to react. So whoever plays the Casemiro role, if we play the Casemiro role, as Jamie says, you've got to be able to do that. Definitely 100% Fred starts. I think McTominay starts. I do think we see the old McFred partnership play, but not in a double pivot. Those days are gone. They're finished. They're over. You'll never see that again in Manchester United. If McTominay is going to sit, he's got to sit properly, okay? And he's got to just walk 2 steps forward, walk 2 steps sideways, walk 2 steps sideways. He's got to be in and around to break up the play. One of the things that you see with the Martinez and the Varane partnership is they're quick to close down. So if Odegaard was to get the drop on Fred, and I don't think he will, the way that, because let's be fair, he had De Bruyne in his pocket. Let's be clear about this. You've got a situation where Martinez, similar stature, aren't they? I don't think Odegaard's, he's not a tall player, is he? They're a similar stature. I think Martinez will be able to handle Odegaard because you can have Martinez and he's going to have Fred. Where we can really be quick with it, and Jamie's spot on, by the way, and so's Marcus and Bainesy. The way that Arsenal play is very reminiscent of Man City. So when these players are running at you quickly, that's when you've got the chance to penetrate. So you pop it off, get on your bike, hopefully take the free ball because your man is too busy trying to close you down. You've just popped it off and you've wandered off. If we can do that and we can be clear, present in our possession, we've got a chance of getting back in. But I think if we go out them all guns blazing, I think we're going to be in problems. I think you're absolutely right. We'll get over in the midfield. They'll find more space than what we normally give away. So let's be calm. Let's be collected. If we can stay in the game for 35 minutes and we're happy within that first 35 minutes, you are not going to see anything different from that minute onwards to minute 70. Because they've got nobody to bring off the bench, have they? From what I can see. They haven't got anyone that can really change that game. And Marcus is absolutely right. And Nketiah, wow. I mean, fair play to the kid. He's been absolutely magnificent. He's missed a couple of good chances, but, he's a good finisher, Nketiah. Jamie's right about Martinelli. He wasn't particularly great against Tottenham, but he still was quite dangerous, in possession. You're absolutely spot on, guys, about our good old friend Xhaka. You can't just go and muscle him away now. He's not going to lose his head anymore. He's a different animal. Be a cracking game and a fascinating game of football. But the way I look at it is if we can stay in it to around 35 minutes, then you push on with Arsenal because I can't see them showing us anything different deep into the second half.
Fingers crossed. There's so much I could have jumped off the back of there, but I'll just say I agree with you all because I do. I didn't know Jamie was such a tactician, though. Some of the words that you were coming out with, Jamie, I thought, you should be going for your coaching badges.
Many talents.
That's why you're here, of course. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Yeah, we're going to talk about the attack in just a second because obviously there's very course to talk about Anthony's forms a little bit hit and miss. Jamie obviously mentioned the knock that Rashford got against City and things like didn't look great on Wednesday night. But Barry's already nicked it. Bainesy and Stu will know what's coming because I asked this same question last week and I'm doing exactly the same with the Arsenal squad. I love doing these. I'm not going to do this for every preview, but just for the ones against the top teams in the league. Right, so I'm going to come to each of you. You have to swap an Arsenal player into the United starting 11. They cannot be on the bench or a backup or anything else. They've got to start. But by proxy, you sell that player in the United shirt. So if you're moving Gabriel Jesus into the striker role, that's the easy one to choose. If you're doing that, you're selling our current striker, which obviously at the moment is Weghorst or Martial. So it can't be a cop-out. You can't say, I'll have him for the bench. They've got to start. So whoever you're bringing across from the Arsenal side.
I mean, it's like you just took the words right out of my mouth because for anyone who doesn't know, Jesus is one of my favorite players outside of Manchester United. Like at City, I really enjoyed watching him. So for me, that's the answer. One problem I have with Martial is that he's really been struggling to stay fit. And he's been at Manchester United for such a long time that it's hard to defend him. So I was actually saying on Twitter earlier today that we need to move past Martial and we need to find somebody who's similar to him, but somebody who will be driven, somebody who will be motivated, and somebody who will stay fit, more importantly, and is in better physical condition. Which is, it's ironic that I'm saying this and I look like a complete idiot because Jesus is actually injured now. But the point is, I think he would be a fantastic addition to the team. That's what I would go for.
Just asking this before everyone else jumps in. Is everyone going to say Jesus, or have I got to put a rule
No,
in there saying
no,
you
I've
can't
got
say
him.
him? Okay,
It's
fine. Just because otherwise, with the City one, as you'll know, everyone was going to say Haaland. But
Haaland, yeah. No,
rule.
mine's actually Saka for Anthony. I'll do Saka
Mine
for
as
Anthony.
well.
I think Saka is absolutely fantastic. He's so good. He's just so good. Everything that he does. I know he hasn't got Actually, no, he's got a fair few goals this season, but I think he started off really well, and then he dumped. He's just so good. I think everything that he does, he's coached really well. Every time he goes into England, he's got a good attitude. Everyone seems to love him in that Arsenal squad. Fans seem to love him. Yeah, Saka for Anthony for me. And this is no disrespect to Anthony. He come for a massive price tag, but again, that's not his fault. And I think he will come good eventually. There are some murmurings from fans today that I saw on social media that he's not good enough. We should just sell him. He's a £30 million player, whatever. He's very raw, Anthony. He'll play, but yeah, Saka for Martinelli for me, definitely. Is that everyone else's answer as well?
So that was going to be mine. I mean, I'll come up with another one because I don't want to be a cop out, but because I agree. I did a thread on I picked sort of my team of the season so far, and Saka was in it. He's got 6 and 6, so he got 6 goals, 6 assists so far this season, which and I think he showed a lot of character for him to bounce back from the Euros nonsense and all the absolute gammons on social media that shouted abuse at him, Marcus and Jayden. But I think for Saka to bounce back from that at such a young age, he's obviously pivotal to this Arsenal side, and he is phenomenal. And so my mate's an Arsenal fan, and I used to take the piss out of him all the time, being like, he's your best product, youth product since Van Persie. How does it feel knowing that he's going to end up at City? I was like, because I thought Saka was made for that City side, but now if Arsenal are going to be here, then I'm like, I tell you what, Saka might stay. If it wasn't Saka, because obviously if Bainesy's taken Saka, I'll try and think of a different one. I don't know if this is a cop out. Go on, Marcus.
No, I was going to say Ramsdale could be an edgy shout for those who don't like Dyer. Just saying.
I was thinking, but I just don't think Ramsdale's that good. I also think his attitude stinks. In the same way that Emi Martinez, I get why you're doing what you're doing, man. I don't know what I would do if I just won the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? I'd probably be worse than that. But watching that, I was just like, yeah, you're a bit of a dislikable man. But I understand why Villa fans love him because we all love a shit house. This might be a cop out because they play semi-different positions, but I probably would go for Odegaard for Eriksen. Eriksen's a phenomenal footballer. He's one of the best bits of business we've done recently. Fantastic. I just think Odegaard's obviously just that little bit of a level. It'd probably give us more squad headaches than it's worth.
That's cheating. You can't offer Odegaard for Eriksen. It's Odegaard for Bruno, really.
Yeah, but obviously Bruno's my man. Do you know what I mean? I absolutely love him.
Somebody tried this last week, didn't they? When they said De Bruyne for McTominay, I was like, you can't have that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's hard. It is hard.
All right then. Nketiah, I'd probably go Nketiah for Martial at the minute. Nketiah's taken his opportunity that's been given to him, and I do feel bad for him because he's one of those footballers that he's obviously good enough. He's good enough to play for a Premier League side, right? He's a good baller. He just obviously struggled to find any sort of run of form in that Arsenal side until Jesus has got injured.
Have you seen the record for Martial, by the way? Just to quickly jump in. Have you seen the record when he plays for United? I think in the last 10 games or the 9 games that we won, he'd played 7 of them and we had won all 7. And then there was a few teams that we played and we lost and he didn't play. It's his record for us actually in this sort of system. What Ten Hag is doing is quite good, and maybe some people are trying to clock onto the fact that it's Martial that's that front line that's helping everyone.
For me, we are a much better team with him. That's why it's imperative that we need to find a like for like replacement. Because I think everyone's
I'll just jump in with mine.
Yeah. I didn't even finish mine.
Haven't you?
No, it's all right. You go ahead.
It was quick fire, to be fair.
Mine's dead easy. And before anyone says to me, Sancho has been a first team player for 5 or 6 games. So I would knock Odegaard out for Sancho. And by the way, Odegaard can play anywhere across the front 3.
That's right. If me swapping Odegaard for Eriksen that's a cheat.
No, I'm not having that.
That's a cheat.
I'm not having that.
He can. Odegaard's played as a 10. He's played out on the right. He's played as an 8.
I'd swap Thierry Henry for Wout Weghorst. There you go then.
I mean, Martinelli. Martinelli for Sancho could work.
Martinelli, Sancho, but Odegaard for Sancho works quite well.
Yeah,
he's a very, very good player, is Odegaard. Very good player.
But he's not in the starting 11 though, isn't it? The question, the parameters was starting 11.
He's been starting 11 though. Sancho was starting 11 at the beginning of the season, wasn't he?
Stu, you've had an agenda against Sancho since day one.
And I think to be fair, though,
I remember when we signed.
Yeah, so do I. I remember being on the show. I think we were all on the same show, and Stu was like, I don't know. I'm going to start a rumor on social media, Stu, that you run a Sancho account. You've got a Twitter account that says like Sancho stinks season or something like that.
I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him come good, but he's had 2 years.
He'll come good.
He's had 2 years.
He's a kid.
He'll come good. Trust me.
He's a youngster. I would. But actually, seriously, on a serious note, at the 2, I'd have Odegaard in and put Sancho any day of the week. And even if Sancho was playing some kind of level we all expect, I just think Odegaard's he's something special.
He's brilliant.
He really is.
Yeah,
He's a brilliant footballer.
My favourite thing about Odegaard, right, is Odegaard was the same period of time as, do you remember Hachim Mastor? They were both like the wonder kids of the future, like
16
10 years ago, whenever it was. Yeah, because Hachim Mastor won the World Football Freestyle competition, and Odegaard was like, "Yeah, I just play football, mate." And then Hachim Mastor disappeared, signed for AC Milan, and then realised you can't be doing keepy-uppies around the world, in Serie A. And now Odegaard's obviously an absolute phenomenal baller, and Mastor, I think, plays in his local park.
I think he does. What did Madrid pay for Odegaard? It was a lot of money, wasn't it?
It was hardly it was hardly anything.
They paid a lot of money for him. A lot of money.
He come from Norway, didn't he? Direct from Norway.
Yeah, they gave him an 80 grand a week contract at 15 or 16, whatever it was. But paid a bit of money for him as well. I just think he's a wonderful talent. He should never have gone to Madrid, but anyway, it's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
And he's blonde as well, though. Like blonde men, there's something about them that I don't trust.
I don't know about that one.
Why are you as a man blonde? Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
I'm trying to think if we've got any blonde contributors for the channel. I think he's going to get offended by that, but I don't think we do. So I think we're all good on that front. I love that question because it opens up so many debates and questions of all kinds of things. So I'll do that again when we play a different top side. I'm not going to do it when we play teams that are right below us because there's just no.
Why not? Are you being teamist?
If you'd have asked me about it, if I was on for Palace and you said that, I would have taken Michael Elise over any single one of our players.
Yeah,
Michael Elise. Oh my God, what a boy!
So good.
What a boy.
Yeah, he's very very good player.
I was at randomly really quickly. So I went to St James Park to watch Newcastle Crystal Palace in the cup a couple of months ago, and honestly, I was there to watch Michael Elise. Like he is phenomenal, man. I absolutely love him.
You're going to start a fan page. I was going to say,
I do. I already do. I've got 3 Twitter accounts all dedicated to him, and one of them says that Stu Woolley stinks.
Probably do right now, actually, to be fair.
Couldn't put 2 passes together tonight.
Oh, fucking shite. I was shite. Absolutely.
Sorry.
Wonderful.
Sorry. He's
still angry about it.
Yeah, I am. And this is why I've not been on North United for ages, is because I just derail conversations. Stupid. Sorry.
No, I'm all for it. Pardon the pun there, but I'm all for all these different kind of conversations. I've only really got one more talking point before we look at kind of predictions and things. I actually kind of covered everything that I wanted to in the first half of this. But looking at our attacking lineup, so we've mentioned Bruno potentially moving out to the right if we're going to shake up our midfield. What kind of attacking lineup, I guess, Marcus, would you go for? Because Weghorst obviously came in against Palace. I didn't think he was great. I didn't think he was bad either. I just thought he was okay. I think he just was an average performance. Rashford didn't seem quite on it. There's question marks about Antony's form right now. Sancho's obviously out of the fray.
The Rashford agenda has started by.
Oh, here we go. But what do you think, man? What kind of front line would you be going for if we're shoving Bruno out on the right? That's one of your positions gone already.
Yeah, I think the logical thing that makes sense is to play Weghorst to the middle, Rashford on the left, and Bruno on the right. But there's a part of me that feels like, you know what, just put Rashford through the middle and play Garnacho on the left, Bruno on the right. The reason why I feel that way is because against Crystal Palace, I genuinely did not. There was not a moment in the game where I was impressed by anything that Weghorst did. I know that people praised his off-ball movement and his hold up, but for me, I don't know, man. It was just very mediocre to me personally. So I would keep Vegas on the bench as an option to come off, and I would try maybe move Rashford to the middle. I think we've seen Rashford play through the middle this season, and without Martial in the team, he was without a doubt the next best thing in the middle for us right now. Which you can see that as a positive, or you can see that as a sign of how desperate we are. Either way, I think there's an argument there to say Rashford should play through the middle. Garnacho, he's absolutely electric. I think starting him in a game of this magnitude isn't really that scary. I think he can handle it. I think he wants it. I think he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, but in a good way. Like he wants to prove something. Yeah. He wants to prove something. He wants to be a star. So yeah, I don't know, man. That's my wacky front three. I'd go with Bruno, Rashford, and Garnacho.
Although I agree with Marcus, I would change it slightly. I think Garnacho is a brilliant sub to bring on. He did it against City. He came on and he was brilliant. He was electric. Now, if we're on the 50th or 60th minute and it's 1-1 and the game's on a knife edge, you bring on someone like Garnacho. You have that option off the bench. I would love to start him, but then you'd think that who would be more effective in a 1-1 or a 0-0? Would it be Weghorst coming off the bench, or would it be Garnacho? Now, obviously, of course, this is all theoretical. We could be 2-0 down. We could be 3-1 down, whatever. But my choice would probably, if we're assuming that Bruno's in the middle here, I would go Anthony on the right, Weghorst through the middle, Rashford on the left. To then, if it's still 1-1, like I mentioned earlier, you can put Rashford through the middle, take Weghorst off, put Garnacho in. We don't know. Obviously, Martial's not going to be playing. He weren't training over the week. Sancho was. Now, we don't know if Sancho is on the bench. We don't know. Look, obviously, he's not going to be match fit, so he's not going to start. But yeah, I think I would go with Garnacho on the bench and bring him on to be that sort of impact sub. I feel like he did it at City. I mean, he's done it so many times actually this season. I remember against Fulham when he scored the winner. He was brilliant. He did it at City. He was brilliant. He was creating. So yeah, I think maybe start Weghorst and then bring Garnacho in. But Marcus is, I mean, equally he could do that as well. What Marcus said.
Just before Stu and Jamie jump in, Peter, I don't know whether I've misunderstood this, but you're saying, what about Weghorst up top, Garnacho on the left, Bruno on the right, and Rashford through the middle? Have I understood that correct? You want Rashford in the 10? That can't be right. Whether I've misunderstood that point there.
That sounds like a bad experiment. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I'd rather Rashford on the right and Bruno down the middle if we're going to do that. But then obviously that's back to midfield. Then you've only got 2 more midfield slots. So that's the difficulty here. When we're talking about the attack, it does kind of link into the midfield conversation because, as we said earlier, if we're stacking the midfield out, we've only got 2 attacking slots to choose from. And Rashford, for me, has got to be one of them. So then you've only got one other. You're either going for a split striker in Garnacho and Rashford, or you're going for Weghorst and Rashford. I don't think there's anyone else, unless Stu, Jamie, you've got anyone else that you can throw into the mix that Bainesy and Marcus haven't already covered that you can put in that attack.
Yeah,
that attacking line.
I'm playing 2 up front. I'm playing Rashford and Weghorst as a floating 2, so they're not static, but they're a floating 2. Which means
in your midfield.
Well, I was about to say, which means you put Bruno and Eriksen. So you put Bruno as a floating 10, so to speak, which you can edge up to the attack when he needs to, but can come and help if he needs to in the middle. So what you tend to do by doing that is you bring Eriksen to play his natural game. One of the issues you have when you've got Bruno out on the right and Eriksen stuck as a 10, and an 8 to a 10, is it stifles Eriksen's position. It doesn't allow Eriksen to play his natural game because Bruno's stuck out on the right. This is a game where you don't necessarily need 3 up front. So I would go with Weghorst. I think he'll cause Arsenal problems, and Rashford, but play them as a split striker. So you're not playing Vegas through the middle, for example. You're playing Rashford and Weghorst as a 2, which means they can widen when need to. And then Bruno can go through the middle, or Eriksen can go through the middle. They can come together when need to really occupy the 2 centre halves and allow Eriksen and Bruno in and around the back. That will confuse Arsenal because they won't be expecting it. If we go in maybe with a 4-3-3, it's very, very easy to.
Sorry, I did not mean to press that. I was scrolling across the screen.
Connor's just booted you out. God,
Sorry, carry on.
You wouldn't have got that in Ben's days, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking. No, what I was going to say is it allows, as I say, it allow Bruno and allow Eriksen to get in and around the back if they need. If they don't want to go, it'll allow Wan-Bissaka and I'm guessing Luke Shaw. I don't know what the side's going to be, but I'm guessing Luke Shaw to attack. But if you're going to get around the back, you need somebody 6'6" in that box. I've spoken about it for years now. You need somebody with height, somebody who can disrupt their two defenders, and I think they will do that. He won't be expecting that either. Mr. Arteta will not be expecting that, and I think you could really ruffle some feathers there. So that's what I would do. You know.
No, that's fair points made, Jamie. What about you for your attacking trio, quartet, duo? What are you going for your front line?
We've just swapped Anthony for Bukayo Saka, haven't we? So I'd definitely start Saka at right wing.
We have, yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. I think there's a lot of people coming up with creative formations here. I don't think we'll, like I said before, I don't think we'll see really a deviation from Ten Hag's preferred system that he's implemented this year. And I probably do think it'll be Bruno playing right wing. Obviously, I don't think he'll really operate in that right wing position. He'll occupy the centre and the sort of right half space. Rashford will play off the left, and I think Weghorst will play up top. And then we'll see that. Yeah, and then we'll see Weghorst probably change at half time. Rashford will go through the middle, and Garnacho will come on the left and try and stretch their back four. I think Rashford has matured though, and I do think that Rashford, whereas everyone used to say, his best position is clearly off the left, I think now it's probably a bit more fluid. I think he could play off the left or as a centre forward, because his decision making seems to be getting better. His runs are more intelligent. He's more physical. So I wouldn't be against him starting through the middle, but I think Weghorst in terms of pressing is our closest thing to Martial. I know obviously everyone has spoken about Martial being a pressing monster, and it's a tricky one when you use that to cover his injuries and things like that. But Martial, like we mentioned before, like Bainesy mentioned, is so important to how we try and perform that Weghorst is the closest to that in terms of the presence and the physicality and the pressing that he'll offer. So yeah, I think it'll be Bruno on the right, Weghorst through the middle, Rashford on the left, and we probably will play McTominay as a 6, Fred as an 8, Eriksen as an 8/10.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree. I think, to be honest, I think we've got the players there. And I think I agree with what Jarvis is saying. Formation is less important than style. We probably won't press them high. We'll be deadly on the break. I think that's probably the kind of angle we're going to have to go for. As we said on the show, with the lack of midfield option with Casemiro. I say lack of option. We've got options. It's just not the one option that we want. I think is the problem that we've got there. So yeah, overload in the midfield, I think probably is the better option, but we never know. Like James said, Ten Hag might just throw someone completely different in there and go for an all-out approach. See Garnacho, Rashford, Anthony, and Bruno, Eriksen, McTominay. We might see that because Ten Hag certainly was brave at the start of the season in these bigger games, especially. I know it got us beat a few times, but it also could work.
Just on what Jarvis said. Then I don't really think we're a press high team. I don't think I've really seen us many times this season press high. And again,
we're actually one of the deepest teams.
Yeah,
there was a chart I saw a couple of weeks ago. We were one of the deepest teams when we defend.
But and this is what I was saying before, like when I said there's a difference between like Brexit 4-4-2 long ball and like tactical long ball. There's a difference between sitting back and then defending deep. Is that if as a manager like Ten Hag, you want to set your plays from deep, and you want to allow people it's an illusion. You want to allow them the illusion of freedom in their defensive third, that they're not being high pressed, but then all of a sudden they go, I've got no outlets here. Especially when you've got electric runners like Rashford, who can intercept, who can steal the ball or whatever. So yeah, so I don't think we'll see us press high at all, and I think that's where people like Weghorst and Martial do really come into their own. Is that sort of restriction that they offer, in that if you imagine like the attacking diamond or whatever, that restriction that they offer in front of the two centre halves, they won't really sit and run and press them, but they'll screen their options, if that makes sense.
I totally forgot about Alanga.
Can I also just say, like, on the pressing thing, I think one of the reasons why we don't press is probably because, and I'm not saying he's a terrible player before anyone comes at me, but it's probably because of how bad Eriksen is defensively. Because if you remember in the Manchester City derby, the gap between the midfield and the defense was so huge. And when you're pressing high up the field and you get played through quickly, again, you need to have the alertness, the intensity, and the discipline to transition quickly and close down the open spaces. And that's the problem with pressing up high. And so I think with United, Erik ten Hag realized very quickly that our pressing is very disorganized, and that's maybe something he has to work on long term. But in the short term, he can get us to defend deep and then still play his desired style when we have the ball. But off the ball, he has to take that more pragmatic approach. I think that's for me the key thing that I've noticed. If we get a midfielder who's intense, who also has the qualities of Eriksen on the ball, but is really intense off the ball and can cover a lot of ground, we will be golden, because then I think we can start pressing a little bit more.
That's why you can get away with the floating too. The only reason you get away with the floating too is that we're so.
I just don't think that player exists, though. Well, yeah. Anyway, or we haven't.
Well, I mean, I look at someone like Enzo Fernandez, and I know people think that maybe you're just overhyping him because of the World Cup. No, even for Benfica, like, he's someone who's really well-rounded. You know,
that player's existed for years. Jan Molby was a master of it, an absolute master of it. If you ever watch Jan Molby play, he used to just trot around in a circle. That's all he ever did. His distribution, short and long, his vision, short and long, the way that he plays, his striking of the football. It was a, you know, I've said this before and I've said it again. Playing the centre midfield isn't a difficult job at all. It's all about common sense. It's about using your ears and your eyes. That's all centre midfield's about. Your head. When you watch Casemiro
and your feet, Stu, you've got to use your feet.
Well, it is a thing. It is a thing. People talk about feet in football all the time, but actually, it's your ears and your eyes that dominate your feet. Because if you're not listening and you're not looking, you won't know which way to travel. So these are the important aspects.
Stu doesn't play football; he plays rugby.
Yeah, these are the important aspects of being a central midfielder and a centre half as well. It's actually knowing where you are at any given time on that pitch and being able to then walk or run with your legs in that right direction. When I'm coaching and I'm talking to the kids about it, I say eyes and ears first. It's all about your eyes and ears. A lot of kids and a lot of fans think that being able to beat 3, 4, 5 players makes you a great footballer.
Yeah,
absolutely not. What makes you a great footballer is your intelligence. Casemiro's got the abundance. His head's always on a swivel. Always. He knows 360 where he is. And, you know, Jan Molby used to do that back in the 70s and the 80s. He was a master of it. He was absolutely brilliant. And, of course, he could hold the ball and control the ball, and that's what Casemiro can do. Is there a younger version out there? Go and fucking make yourself one. Go and invest the time and become the type of player that you want to be, you know. But modern-day players don't do it. Modern-day players, they think, well, I'm a right-back. Well, are you? Really? Fucking sort yourself out, you know, become important to the team. No, not that, you know, but modern day players don't do that. They just stick themselves in right back and that's it, and away to go or wherever. But anyway, that's where
I never thought Jan Molby would be getting a mention.
Yeah,
Jan Molby could play his game today. He was that good. He was that intelligent as a player. He was a phenomenal footballer.
If it's the same one I'm thinking of, didn't he manage Kidovitz the Harriers at one point?
Probably, yeah.
I think that's where I know the name, because that's only up the road from me.
Yeah,
I think that's where
he was. He was lazy. He's absolutely, Jarvis is right. He's the laziest player in the league, but he was able to. He got the quality to be lazy.
Indeed, but yeah, I just thought that quite funny because I've never thought that he would get a mention on a show like this. But there we are. We'll look to wrap it up there, but before we do, we'll get your score predictions and things like that, because we've covered so much in an hour and 5 minutes there. That's been incredible. Before you do your score predictions, I will just say, as I was saying to Marcus before you guys joined backstage, we haven't actually beaten Arsenal in the league at the Emirates since 2017, where we beat them 3-1.
Emirates is not a good place to go for us.
And it was a Pogba red card in that game as well, which we won 3-1. We beat them in the Cup. I think it was under Ollie in 2019 at the Emirates, but in the league, we've always seemed to struggle there. So, I mean, what is Barry going? He's going on about... Yeah, I think I can relate to that as well, to be fair. There we are. Right, get to your score predictions then. Marcus, for yourself, what's your score prediction and your goal scorers as well?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. Goal scorer.
You bastard, man! I was going to go for that.
Goal scorer. Weghorst. Why not? Screw it. Weghorst. He's scoring a goal.
Love to see it. Bainsy?
Is there a prize? Is there a league table? I want to know how ridiculous I can get on this.
Ben gave
There's a
us
prize.
prizes.
Yeah, Ben gave us $5,000. I mean, I'm still waiting for my money. I'm still waiting for my check.
Oh, here we go. Look. No.
No. Honestly, this game's been hyped up so much over the week. It's got 0-0 written all over it, isn't it? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with 1-1 as well. Can I do that? Am I allowed to copy?
Yeah, you don't have to pick a different score.
I don't know. I can't see us winning this game. I can also see us losing. I'm gonna go Rashford first goal scorer 1-1. Although I've just got a weird feeling that we are just gonna lose this game and it'll be one of those ones. But yeah, 1-1 Rashford.
Stu?
Yeah, I
Such a tough place to go. We don't get results there.
Yeah, I think we're going to be on the wrong end of a 2-1 loss, actually.
You horrible bastard.
Yeah.
That was mine.
Yeah, well, I do. I think we're going to be on the wrong end of a 2-1 loss. You know, and yeah, look, people can say what they like, and Jamie, go with it, because I agree with you, mate. I do. I would have said it anyway. I just think we're going to be on, and I think we'll go 2-0 down, actually. I think we'll concede twice. And
I honestly, if I could, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't want to be that guy, but I can't see us winning or draw. I think we'll lose. Generally, I think we'll lose, and I haven't said that a lot this season.
You didn't say that.
I mean, last season I predict us to lose every year, but mine was 1-1.
I think we're going to be on the end of a 2-1 loss, and I think Rashford might score, but I think we'll go 2-0 down. Well, I do. They're a good side, Arsenal, and you know. It's not about being a Manchester United fan. It's about football.
Being realistic, yeah.
It's all about football. This is take your point, Martha. We have to win the game. We do, but so do they. So unfortunately, 2-1 Arsenal.
I've got to agree with Stu. Is that, you know, as much as I love to be passionate about the club I've supported my whole life, is that sometimes obviously you have to be realistic, and it's one of those. We got the better of them at home earlier in the season, and I think that they just get the better. And I do think the same as Stu. Playing at the Emirates, for some reason, for me, every time we go there, I just think Xhaka's going to score from 30 yards. He always
scores, isn't he? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the guy could have a thing where he says, "Oh, if I score this season, I have to kill my whole family," and he'd still score against us at the Emirates, and it'd be a 30 yards. No one closes him down, and he just goes, "Oh, I'm just going to have a whack." And all of a sudden it goes in, and then he goes, "Oh shit, I've got to go kill my whole family now." And I think he's going to score, Saka's going to score, and then I think Rashford pulls one back for us. But it's not enough in the end, and it's the springboard that Arsenal need to go on and win the league. And
I would say that as well.
And in true media fashion, rather than looking at the other 38 games that they play, they'll focus on, was the game against Manchester United at the Emirates where Arsenal really won the title.
Yeah.
And it's like they'll do it, because obviously they've got to go play City twice. They'll do the double over City and no one will bat an eyelid, because Pep Guardiola's done his whole thing of his annual meltdown over nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, my team won 4-2 against Spurs. Boot off. So he can turn up to Sheikh Mansour like Oliver Twist with his little porridge bowl and go, "Excuse me, I need another $250 million to go and sign 2 centre halves." And you know, they go out and buy Josko Gvardiol, and they'll buy Nico Schlotterbeck, and then we'll be back in the same cycle next year where they have a little dip in form. You know what I mean? How do you win 4 out of 5 Premier League titles, and then just because you get beat by, you know, the Reds because Bruno Fernandes was clever and Rashford, you know, wasn't offside, you then turn around and say, "Oh, we don't care about it." Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent. There was nothing about Guardiola there. But yes, I think
I agree with you though. If Arsenal win this game, they've won the title. For me, they 100%. Won the title. Yeah,
100%. If we win, so sorry, Peter Hannon, I have just said what I think will happen at Arsenal playing City home and away. I think they'll just batter them. If we win, right, we're as much in the title race as we are today, and yet the media will spin the narrative that we are now, you know, prime position to go, so that when we don't win the title at the end of the season, everyone then
it'll be spun back on us.
remember when United fans thought they were going to win the league? Do you know what I mean?
Arsenal fans are doing that now. So look, everyone knows. I live in Kent, right? Loads of Arsenal fans around here. Arsenal fans are doing that now. They still think that United are favourites to win the title. That's just the level of stupidity that I'm getting at the moment. They think United have a better chance than Arsenal right now and City to win the title. So when eventually we don't win the title and it'll be Arsenal, it'll be like, well, look, see, you were the favourites, blah, blah, blah. It's just the media and all the other rival fans just playing it up that we're in this title race. But we would be, if we beat Arsenal, of course we would be, but we wouldn't be any different because we've dropped points to Palace. So it wouldn't be any different.
Arsenal have had, I think it was something like the 5th best start of any Premier League side ever.
Yeah.
And of the people in that bracket, only 2 of them have not gone on to win the title. One of them was Liverpool wasn't it? In that season where City were just... I would also be pissed off, by the way. If I was Jurgen Klopp or a Liverpool fan and we got, 97 points, whatever it is, and didn't win the league, best believe I would never watch a game of football in my life again. I'd be watching the Badminton World Championships.
Not winning the league.
But then it's funny because we can still take the piss out of him and be like, you only won 1 Premier League title. You're up there with Leicester and Blackburn. Shut mouth.
It's worth pointing out, lads, that Arsenal have only lost once this season. That was us. It's worth pointing that out as well. Momentum's a massive carry. It is what it is.
It can go both ways, though. It can go both ways. If we get an early goal, the game will be spun out of control. It depends what happens in that. I think who said it? Was it Stu? First 35 minutes sets that game. The first half hour, yeah. If it's 0-0 after half hour, we're going to see the same thing.
But that's usually where Xhaka scores. That's usually where Xhaka hits that random shot. Everyone's like, it'll be the first shot on target of the game, and De Gea will, for some reason, be stood chatting to some bird in the first row, and it'll go, shit.
Yeah, he never lose for him. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the pundits
annoying.
will be like, oh, it's got a wicked swerve on that shot, hasn't it? Like you see it bend there, and that's why De Gea's struck. So no, mate, Xhaka's hit the ball from 30 yards out, he should be saving that. But I'm all here for it. If Garnacho can somehow get a winner in the 93rd minute, kiss the badge, and then announce a new contract, late on Sunday, early Monday, what a week that'll be. But no, I'm backing, just to go back to Connor's original point, because I think we just spent about 10 minutes talking about hypotheticals. I think we'll lose 2-1. But that's fine. It's all part and parcel of being a United fan. I think top four is done. I think for the top 4 that are in there now, I think that top 4 stays the same. I think the structure of it.
No. Not for me.
Well, Spurs are 8 points off, and that Spurs side.
It will be Liverpool.
Nah, I don't know Liverpool side.
I think Newcastle drop out. I think Liverpool, honestly, they've got capable Liverpool of going on a 5-6 game winning streak, like they did that season where they were horrendous, and then they won 6.
Where they were taking performance enhancing drugs, and now they've had them taken off them by racketeering departments.
They'd unfortunately got a lot of asthma in the squad, didn't they?
Every new signing has asthma.
Fulham have more of a chance of getting into that top 4 than Liverpool do.
Fulham are playing really well.
And I think Newcastle are stunning this season. Do you know what I mean? Bruno Gamara has been cleared fit for the weekend after what they thought was going to be a big injury.
Player of the season. You watch my words. He'll get player of the season. They will.
I mean, it's worth noting that Newcastle have only lost 1 game this season as well.
Exactly.
So they're the only other team.
And it was controversial. It was controversial as fuck. They should not have lost that game.
Was that the last minute winner?
No, Liverpool.
Was it Liverpool?
Oh, it's the Liverpool game.
Liverpool scoring. They scored in the 6th added minute, even though they'd only been 2 minutes.
That's it.
And obviously, you can talk about the game we played against them. That we could have won that because there was a few dodgy.
We should have won that game against Newcastle.
But then at the same time, there's a few weird decisions in our favour, and I've got no qualms. I don't know if any other United fan thinks this, but I've got no qualms with Newcastle being up there in the top 4. It makes a change to the season, the season dynamic and the drama. Do you know what I mean? It's like something out of a F1 Drive to Survive season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like somebody tweeted, didn't they? Arsenal, United, Newcastle going for it. It's back in the 90s, isn't it? Early 90s. So
yeah.
But there we are.
So expecting Ruud Gullit to walk out of the the Newcastle dugout and sit down and be like, oh, here we go. Where's Andy Cole?
There we are.
I mean, I'm sorry to bring this in. This is completely off topic, but I'm looking at the league table and the relegation zone is mad. Nottingham Forest,
Yeah,
not Nottingham
Leicester.
Forest, sorry, Leicester are 14th, but they're 3 points away from the relegation. That's 2 points actually. From the relegation
Southampton,
zone. That's
Leicester,
mad.
West Ham, Everton. There's some huge clubs
Leeds.
there that could go
Yeah,
down.
Leeds.
yeah.
Wolves, they're all in there. That's insane. Wow.
Get
Anyway.
Everton gone. Get Leeds gone.
I'm funny with that, but yeah.
Certainly going to be an interesting relegation battle, that's for sure. So one that we can keep an eye on because we are nowhere near it, thank God. I don't know what my prediction is. I don't know. 2-2. Rashford and Bruno, because why not?
2-2's a shout. 2-2's a good shout.
I'm with you. I'd never feel confident going to Arsenal away ever, because we're always poor there for whatever reason. We just never seem to be showing up an Arsenal away. But it is what it is. We shall see. We shall be back. I don't even know when we're going to do the reaction show. Monday night it'll be. So yeah, make sure you tune in for that. When hopefully we've beaten Arsenal, we're all wrong with our predictions, and we can sit here celebrating a win.
Brilliant.
Thanks all for coming on, Marcus, Bainesy, Stu, Jamie. Great to see you all, and thanks to everyone in the comments. Make sure you're liking the video and subscribing. I said we'll be back on Monday with a match reaction. Then we'll have a special show on Hannibal with a Birmingham fan on Tuesday or Wednesday, one of the two. And then we've got Reading, I think, is it in the FA Cup next weekend? So we're onto FA Cup.
Reading. Yeah.
So make sure you check out that one as well. Make sure you're following all these guys as well, because why not? They obviously talk sense. That's why they're on here. And we shall see you in the next one.